From the reveal of Geno to the return of an absolute icon, Fortnite has just had some huge new storyline information revealed. So let's take a look. The Zero War comic, issue number 4, seems to include more of these deeper storyline details, as well as major plot reveals that we seem to be seeing in this season quite commonly through the comics. And there's even more to do with Geno. Initially, when we first saw Geno in the Collision Live event, the perception that we saw of him was rather demonic and dark, and this is where it gets really interesting. Here we have 4 different photos, and they're all Geno, yet each one looks significantly different. Why? It brings up a really intriguing idea that Geno may be able to almost alter his forms or shapeshift, so it's time to analyze. The first dark demon looking form of him is either him on full power, or it's a 0 points perception of him. Let me explain. Seeing that Geno runs the Imagined Order, an organization focused solely on making the most out of the 0 points power, you could assume that whatever they're abusing or taking control of wouldn't hold a very good relationship or wouldn't be the biggest fan of them. So that's why the 0 points view of Geno here could see him as dominating, confronting, and as we mentioned earlier, demonic. Now for the other forms. This next one is very strange, as we see Geno with a scar placed on his forehead. Yet in all of his other forms, he does not have any scar in that spot, like never. Immediately, what came to mind for me personally was Geno's ability to manipulate perfection. He uses his knowledge of genetic sciences to alter DNA, and remove imperfections like he did with his daughters, the Imagined and the Order. It's highly possible that Geno alters his own face to be more perfect with the use of this power, and that's likely how this whole scar thing works. Now, there's just 2 more to look into: his king type form, and this suit like Dracula looking thing shown in the comics. This form is very clearly older, and has some facial imperfections like wrinkles, scars, and whatnot, whereas this one, his hair is long, his jawline is just perfect, like he's just gone. Geno isn't supposed to age, so that's because of virtual immortality. That's what virtual immortality does. It makes you unable to die of old age, because you don't reach an old age, you don't age. Or the age that Geno is seemingly at right now seems to be quite old. Now, I'm not sure what this younger form of Geno is, but it seems like he can alter his age and face. I mean, this guy looks like Loki and his perfection form, so Shapeshifter can change significant details about this appearance. Geno is Loki confirmed? Oh my god. With all jokes aside, it's really interesting to hear this new information about Geno, as he is the main enemy of the storyline, don't forget that. So, let me know what you think of all of this in the comment section below. If you thought that was all the plot details we received, you are far from correct. The storyline return of the Elementals, which I predicted like a full year ago by the way, it has finally happened, and it is way better than I ever could have expected. Actually, that's not true. I still want an entire season about all of them, but still, there's a reason that the Ice King is back in these comics. There's a reason that the elements were just revealed to be ice, fire, dark, earth, and air. The Elementals are returning to the story finally, and the comics are just the beginning of it. In the Zero War comic issue number 4, Jones and the Seven, alongside Iron Man and some random Marvel characters, come across a complex castle buried beneath some snow on the Ice Moon, and within it they find the Ice King. He is sat upon a throne, more grand than the one in Season 7, which tells us that this isn't the same castle from Chapter 1, I mean it's pretty obvious since the other one literally got blown up by Paradigm, but still, it just clarifies that the Ice King probably has many hubs for his kingdom to spread widely across the moon, and the things he tells us are far more interesting than any of the castle information. I once had another name, but the Ice King is now what I am called, and it serves well enough. This likely references to how he is also the Lord or King of Water. Uncounted ages ago, brave allies and I began collecting items of power, things and beings too dangerous to exist, and that's likely how the Cube Queen has her cubes and motherships and everything like that as part of the Lost Reality. As we know, she is one of the 5 elemental allies. My worst fears were realized when my staunchest comrade argued for using these items to alter realities to our liking. I was forced to then freeze him, my other knights and all we'd acquired within our fortresses, again emphasizing how the Elementals and the Ice King specifically has multiple kingdom castles, he has multiple forces. Now, I brought my Ice Moon here to a reality I believed it was isolated and safe. Wary, I turn the ice upon myself, to sleep at last forever. In an absolute cosmic storm likely to be the eruption of Kevin the Cube, a piece of the castle in which I dwelled was finally sheared off. Fragments struck the island below. As the ice melted, I awaked, and perceived the danger from my dungeons. The prisoner, my old ally turned enemy, escaped. I battled him, attempting to stop him from unleashing yet worse dangers. I failed. So that is overall super interesting. The elementals of ice and fire don't exactly seem, have any good or bad side, which I absolutely love. The Ice King was taking things for himself for his own liking, and the Fire King was kind of doing the same thing, but he was also against the Ice King for whatever reason. That makes the Ice King, what he was doing wasn't great, but neither was the Fire King doing, anything exactly great, so that makes me think that this part of the story is not so much good versus evil, which you would know that I love that, as neither of them are particularly, good, exactly, heroes. Now, just because Ice King is in the comics doesn't mean he will return next season, but it goes without saying that I really, really hope he does. Now, what about the other elements? And does it link in any way to Geno? Well, yeah, it totally does. Shout out to Tater OTF for pointing this first point out to me, on how this skin's pose, who has very similar armor to Geno, look at him. It is the same as Aurelia's pose, and it's not any coincidence. Look at the crosses on their heads. It's the exact same. Now there's clearly a link between these two characters, and I'll bring up something that I have said for absolutely ages. Oro and Aurelia both link directly to life, genetics, and immortality through their sun symbol that's represented. It's literally the symbolism of life. Just watch any theory video of mine that is somewhat elemental, and I've probably said it there. I love this idea. The fact that we now have direct links between these characters and Geno, who both are linked to life, immortality, and everything through just this small appearance detail, it really leads me to believe that the elementals and life and death and Geno and immortality and the representations of all these powers and abilities that we've been introduced to will actually be the main focus of this chapter's upcoming seasons. So, do you like the sound of that?